Good morning, Coronials. It is Friday, March 20th, and I'm on day 5 of quarantine, and I'm starting to go a little crazy. But what better way to confront a little doom and gloom than to dive right into the numbers and let's see how things have been shaping up over the past day in coronavirus reports. So it looks like Italy added on about 5,500 new cases. They still seem to be growing at a rate of about 15% in Italy, which is a little depressing because they implemented a countrywide quarantine exactly 10 days ago. And when you look at the numbers in China after they implemented their quarantine, it took about 10 days for the new case numbers to start going down after the quarantine was implemented. And this is probably because of the incubation time of the illness. So you implement the quarantine and the actual number of cases on the ground at that time doesn't match the number of cases that are being reported because you don't know about them yet, and it takes about 10 days for all of those cases to be discovered. So that 10-day period, your cases are going to still go up. Your new cases, your new confirmed cases are going to still continue to go up. And then after about 10 days in China, you started to see those new case numbers go down. So we were hoping now, after 10 days, to start seeing the case numbers in Italy go down, and we haven't seen that decline yet. So today, this weekend, let's keep an eye on the numbers in Italy and hope to start to see some results there. I believe that today Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, just extended a statewide quarantine beyond just the Bay Area where they were doing it initially. I'm not sure if you can call it a quarantine exactly or more a strongly worded letter encouraging state residents to stay home. Let's hope people are heeding that. California has actually done quite well so far. They've only been experiencing an average growth rate of about 20 to 30%. They added a few new cases yesterday, about 300 new cases yesterday at a 45% growth rate, so that's not good. They're sitting right at about 1,000 active cases in California. But when you compare that to New York, who is seeing an absolute explosion of new cases, California seems to actually be doing quite okay. So in New York, the crown jewel of the United States, we are, of course, the city that is most interconnected. We all ride the subways, we touch surfaces, we cough in close proximity to each other. When this thing first started spreading in the United States, I kind of assumed that New York City was going to be a ground zero for a huge explosion if it was going to happen anywhere. And it turns out that is now materializing. Over the past 3 days, we have been adding about 1,500 to 2,000 new cases a day. Yesterday, we had 2,700 new cases almost. Our growth rate is between 75 and 85% over the past 3 days. Now, there's one potential silver lining here. That could be because we have finally started to get the testing capacity to identify the existing cases that have always been there. And it may be that we are adding a ton of new cases because we're only discovering them because of the tests. So does that mean that the actual new infection rate is sitting at 75 to 85% right now? Let's hope not. Because that could be potentially catastrophic if that number continues. Looking here at the numbers in New York, the projected numbers using the 5-day moving average of the growth over the past 5 days, if we continued at this rate, we would be hitting 9,000 new cases today, 15,000 tomorrow, 26,000 on Sunday, and 45,000 by Monday. Let's hope that the growth rate over the past 5 days is a complete anomaly. Because if we do continue at that rate, 45,000 total cases by Monday, that's an explosion that the city just absolutely can't handle. Continuing at that growth rate, it would put us at 77,000 on Tuesday and 130,000 on Wednesday. That doesn't seem possible, given what we've seen in other places. That kind of growth rate just hasn't happened anywhere. And at that rate, that would put us by the 24th, we would have the same number of cases in New York as they do in Italy if Italy continues growing at the same rate they're growing at. So fingers crossed, the past few days in New York have been an anomaly, but I guess we won't find out until we start to see the numbers come in for today and tomorrow, and hope that we start to see a dramatic decline in the growth rate of new cases in New York City. Let's take a look at the news for today, see what's happening around the world. Gavin Newsom, governor of California, orders all Californians to stay at home. He's asking Congress for $1 billion to support their fight against the coronavirus. Governor's order comes at a critical time in California where 19 people have died and an additional 958 have tested positive for the disease. I believe that number is out of date. This sounds like it's coming from Thursday. Yes, so that would be yesterday. The state projects that 25.5 million of 40 million residents in California will be infected over an 8-week period. These numbers are insane. People are predicting 60%, almost 2/3 of the residents in California and states like New York to be infected in the next 8 weeks. If that's true, then maybe the numbers that we're seeing in New York, the growth rate that we're seeing, is actually accurate. So that is going to make things really interesting if those numbers actually materialize. Ooh, that's my first cough. Wonder if I'm starting to get some symptoms here. The U.S. tax filing deadline. This should be of import for many independent artists and creatives. The tax filing deadline has been moved to July 15th from April 15th. So that's a 90-day extension. That means that you have an extra 90 days to get your taxes in order. I believe if you file as an LLC, you should have filed by March 15th already. I'm going to look into that and see if that number also got changed. Congress and Trump were negotiating over cash payments. Who would have thought? After Andrew Yang ran a brilliant campaign for president over the past 2 years, he's been pushing this idea called universal basic income. He spent 2 years on the campaign trail in states like Iowa and New Hampshire. If you are big into the podcast circuit, you almost certainly came across him on podcasts like Sam Harris, Ben Shapiro, Joe Rogan. The Joe Rogan episode that Andrew Yang did actually was probably the most critical thing that catapulted him from an obscure candidate that nobody had heard about to all of a sudden somebody that a ton of people were taking seriously and started to develop this following of rabid fans called the Yang Gang. He spent 2 years campaigning for this idea, universal basic income, or giving $1,000 a month to every single adult in the United States in order to basically create an income floor so that nobody had to worry about ever being reduced to complete poverty. It would kind of lift everybody up to the poverty level regardless of what your job situation was. So if you were laid off, you still had that $1,000 a month check coming in. You didn't have to apply for unemployment in order to, jump through hoops in order to get it. You just knew every month you were going to get $1,000 a month in the mail. Well, turns out, even though at the time it didn't seem like anybody in the establishment was taking his ideas seriously, he built up a really strong following of people because he had the data to back it. When people actually started looking into his proposals, they started to realize that maybe this stuff kind of makes sense. Now that we're in the middle of a pandemic where people are being laid off left and right, you're hearing numbers thrown around like something like 20% they're expecting to be unemployed over the next few weeks. And we don't know how long that's going to continue, whether it's going to be months, 12 months, 18 months, until we finally see a vaccine come into place. The economy right now is in a complete halt. So what do people do for money? What happens when you have your rent payments coming up? Yes, they're talking about deferring rent payments, but you're still going to have to pay those rent payments after the crisis resolves because, deferred payment doesn't actually save you any money in the long term. So the Trump administration is actually talking about cash handouts directly to the American people as a stimulus to A, enable them to continue paying their bills, and B, prop up the industries that are otherwise failing because there is no cash flowing in the economy from the bottom, the local spenders, up to the businesses. So this negotiation that's happening right now in Congress is really fascinating. I believe the House, led by the Democrats, already came to an agreement with the Trump administration on what that bill should look like. They passed a bill in the House. The bill is now in the Senate, and the Senate, led by Mitch McConnell and the Republicans, is currently negotiating on their version of that bill that they are hopefully going to pass very soon. It looks like here, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell of Kentucky released a broad plan late Thursday that calls for taxpayers to receive up to $1,200 with married couples eligible to receive as much as $2,400, with an additional $500 for every child. Okay, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Individuals are going to receive $1,200. Married couples are going to receive $2,400. What's the difference? Married couples are made up of two individuals receiving $1,200. Are they going to get $2,400 each? And then you get an additional $500 for every child. Who knows? These news reports of these bills when they're still being devised never really make a lot of sense to me. So we're really going to have to wait until the bill actually gets passed to find out what that means for people like us. The beautiful thing about this bill is that I believe they're hoping to get the money out into Americans' hands in the next 2 weeks. I don't know if that's possible. That might just be the Trump administration, blowing steam up our asses. But at least they're working on this, and they're going to be trying hard over the next few weeks to get this money out to average American people. So what does that mean for creatives who have lost their job, who still have bills coming in, who have no idea when they're going to be able to get their next job? or when they're going to see their next check coming in. That means that we may have some money coming in over the next few weeks to maybe even a month or two after that to help tide us over to get us through this economic shutdown, to hopefully be able to make it out on the other side without having defaulted on credit cards, defaulted on rent payments. Even if the rent is getting deferred, you're still going to need some money in the bank to pay that on the other side. So let's keep an eye on this bill. Let's hope this passes soon, and let's hope they're able to figure out how to get money into people's hands quickly. And I will, of course, keep a close eye on that and keep you updated here. So we have the bill that's going through Congress right now that is hopefully going to get money out to everyday Americans in the next few weeks. We'll keep an eye on that. I believe I also got an email from the New York State of Health. Special enrollment period through April 15th for uninsured individuals in light of the COVID-19 public health emergency. Enroll today. So if you live in New York State and you are currently uninsured, let's say that you missed the deadline over the winter to apply for the Affordable Care Act through the New York State of Health Marketplace, they have reopened enrollment. So that means that starting today through April 15th, you have a little less than a month to apply to get your insurance updated and get sponsored through the New York State Marketplace. So if you are uninsured in New York State, definitely go to New York State of Health and apply today. That is nystateofhealth.ny.gov, but y'all got Google, so Google that shit. So enough of the news. Let's go to Creators Unite. This is where I am blogging about and keeping track of my daily experience with this pandemic and quarantine, and trying to answer questions that I have as a creative and that I know that other creatives have been asking me about. So we started yesterday with 7 questions for artists, actors, models, and creators for surviving the coronavirus pandemic. We started with, how serious is this pandemic really? I have just finished that blog post. I will be making a video about it shortly. 2, how long until we can start to see our jobs coming back? That is a question that's probably going to take some more time to answer. We're so early in this pandemic that we really have no idea how long the lockdown is going to last. It could be 6 to 8 weeks. It could be longer. We're going to keep an eye on that question. We're going to keep thinking about that question. We're going to keep that in the back of our minds as we read the news every day and try to get a better understanding for what the curve might look like in that scenario. For now, hunker down, be ready to wait this thing out. It's going to be a few weeks to months. 3, are there any new job opportunities that might pop up during the crisis to help us get through to the other side? This is a really important question because I know that a lot of creatives, especially in New York City, it is hard to survive in New York City. A lot of creatives are living paycheck to paycheck, and when your job disappears overnight, your bills continue to pile up. Your rent payments continue to be due. Even if they defer rent payments, even if Congress sends us money, we're still going to have to figure out how to make some money over the next few weeks to months. So what are the new opportunities that are going to be popping up out there that we can take advantage of without unnecessarily exposing ourselves to the virus and contributing to the spread? The limited research I've done so far on this is that grocery stores may be hiring. Hospitals may at some point be hiring for non-skilled hospital workers. I haven't heard any specific positions that have been coming up in that, but that's one thing that I continue to hear recommended to look into. And then the other one, the big one, is delivery drivers. I've been trying to find opportunities for, maybe like driving for Amazon or UPS. I don't know what the onboarding processes are like for those. Amazon claims to be hiring 100,000 warehouse workers across the country. I couldn't find any Amazon warehouses in New York City, but definitely jump onto Google and take a look and see if there's maybe some Amazon jobs hiring in your area if you're looking for work. It sounds like Amazon is going to be pushing their workers to just push right through this thing. They've got deliveries to make. They are helping to keep the economy going. They're helping to get people supplied in their homes. So even if you are not a big fan of Amazon, or their business practices, at the very least, it could potentially be a job opportunity for you in this difficult time. And you could be helping to keep people from having to go out of their homes, and you may be taking one for the team by being the delivery guy for them. So definitely something to look into. I'm going to do more research on that to see if I can find other opportunities that might be popping up. I'd love to hear your experience with that as well, if you know of anything. Number 4, what do we do about our bills and rent payments if we don't have enough savings to wait this out? It's a great question. The job opportunities one is going to be hopefully one of the solutions to that. The bill going through Congress right now, where they're going to start sending us money directly, should hopefully be another solution for that. Rent payments and bills getting deferred. that is something that I'm actually going to look into today. That's going to be my job for the rest of the day, is to figure out what the experience is going to be like contacting creditors to see if we can get payments deferred. My limited understanding at this point, is that should be something that creditors are willing to work with you on in the middle of this pandemic, especially if you tell them that you've been completely laid off and have no income coming in for the foreseeable future. Most likely they want to continue to have a positive relationship with you going forward, assuming you've always been a good client and you're going to continue to be a good client after the pandemic. So the first step is going to be to call up all of your accounts, bank accounts, credit cards, talk to your landlord, let them know the situation you're in, and get on the early side of this so that you guys are all on the same page as this thing progresses, and as you may be in a more and more dire financial strait to keep up with those bills. So if you can get those payments deferred early, I would jump on that today and start calling everyone up and getting on the same page with them about that. 5, how do we stay strong and healthy and sane in isolation? This is going to be a challenge every day. I know for me, the number one thing for me is to get enough sunlight. You got to get sunlight in the morning. So make sure that you're opening your blinds first thing in the morning. Our bodies run on a circadian rhythm that is primarily driven by light sensitivity in the eyes. You need to be getting a lot of bright light first thing in the morning to jumpstart your cortisol, to tell your body it is now time to be awake. Because if you're having trouble sleeping at night, it's because it hasn't been a long enough period of time since you first jump-started that circadian rhythm in the morning. So the earlier you can jumpstart that circadian rhythm, get some coffee in your system, get the blood flowing, do a little exercise and stretching in the morning. The sooner you get that started in the morning, the easier it will be to fall asleep at night and to stay on a continued healthy rhythm. Once we start staying up all night, sleeping all day, we just end up getting more and more depressed, and that just makes everything harder to deal with. So staying strong, healthy, and sane in isolation requires jump-starting your morning, finding some way to exercise, and also giving yourself projects and tasks to work on as if tomorrow or the next day or next week, this thing's all going to be over and you need to be able to hit the ground running as soon as you get out the other side. Update your website, update your portfolio, reach out to clients, let them know, that we're all in this together, that you hope they're well, and that you look forward to working with them again as soon as things start up again on the other side. Because the more you can stay in communication with your clients, the more likely you will be the first person they call when business starts up again. So definitely make a list for yourself and just work on that list every day. Try to be productive just to keep yourself sane and moving forwards and staying positive. Number 6. What should I do if I start getting coronavirus symptoms? Number 1, don't go anywhere. Don't go to the hospital. That's the number one thing they're saying to people. Do not go to the hospital. You do not need to get tested. The test is not going to tell you anything. Whether you're positive or negative, the response to that test is the same thing. Stay home, isolate yourself, quarantine yourself. So whether you're experiencing symptoms or not, stay in your apartment. Don't go anywhere. Don't go and infect other people. You have to assume that you have the virus at this point. Now, if your symptoms start getting more serious, if you find that you are coughing a lot, that you feel like there's fluid buildup in your lungs, I need to do more research on this to find out exactly when you need to pull the trigger and call 911 and go to the hospital. But that will be another blog post and video. So I'll do a little bit more research on that. But generally speaking, if you're young and healthy and you start to feel symptoms, your fever can get up to 102, 103. It's really only in the more extreme cases. If you're not able to hydrate, if you're not able to keep fluids down, that's a reason to go to the hospital. But if you're able to weather this thing out at home, that is 99% of the time going to be the best case scenario. So stay home. Don't go to the hospital unless you have really serious symptoms. And number 7, what can I do to get ready for a rebounding economy on the other side? This goes back to number 5. How do we stay strong and healthy? Well, we do number 7. We work on all the things that we need to do to put ourselves in the best position possible to come out strong and ready on the other side, so that as soon as the economy starts coming back, you're ready to jumpstart your own business. So these will all be more in-depth blog posts over the next few days, but that's what I'm thinking about today. Today, I'm going to get jump-started on number 4. What do we do about our bills and rent payments if we don't have enough savings to wait this out? So I'm going to start jumping on that, calling my credit cards, calling my bank, calling my landlords, letting them know the situation that I'm in. I'm actually in the last month of the lease on this apartment, and I am supposed to be moving out at the end of the month. That's in 11 days. So I don't know what the status of that's going to be with this pandemic. If things are in full lockdown in New York, obviously that won't be able to happen right away. I don't have another apartment to move into because in the middle of this crisis, just haven't been able to find one. What I do have is a photo studio that I just signed the lease on a couple weeks ago. So I'm going to have to be working with my landlord there to figure out if I can move, some of this stuff in at the end of the month if it's not in complete lockdown. And then otherwise I'll probably be crashing on my sister's couch until this thing weathers down and the economy starts to pick up and I can find my next apartment. So anyway, that's what I'm going to be working on today, trying to figure out what to do about those bills and rent payments. I would call your cell phone company. Any bills that you have coming in, even Squarespace, if you have a website with them. Adobe is a huge one. I actually just heard the other day that people who called Adobe to cancel their accounts because they're out of work now and they can't afford that $100 a month payment or whatever it is now, Adobe's actually giving out 3-month credits. So you can get 3 months with no payment to keep your Adobe account active. You can continue to stay creative during the quarantine. That's another one that I'm gonna have to call. So think about all the bills that you pay on a regular basis. Call them up and let them know your situation and see if you can't get some deferment so that you can save your cash for groceries and for medical supplies that you might need during this pandemic. So anyway, that's what I'm gonna be jumping on today. We will start another video for that. This has been way too long. My first day doing quarantine updates. We'll see how this goes. If you find this interesting, please let me know. If you're going through the same situation, if you have questions, if you have comments, concerns, maybe you have ideas for how to deal with these issues that all creatives are facing, please drop me a comment, shoot me a message, send me an email. I'm going to be posting all of these to my blog. It's at creatorsunite.org. I've created a Facebook page for it. There's a Twitter. There's even a subreddit, creatorsunite.org on Reddit. So find me on any of those places. I'd love to hear from you. The only way that we're all going to be able to get through this crisis is figuring out the answers to these questions and many more questions. And the easiest way to do that is to talk to other people. So I've been talking to all of my friends that I know are in the same situation, but I would especially love to hear from you. If you're watching this and you have any ideas, please reach out to me. Stay safe, guys. Stay productive. Stay positive. Stay motivated. Start every day as if it's a new opportunity to jumpstart your progress towards getting to the other side. So with that, I'm going to jump on to my next video. Thanks for watching. And leave me a message. Thanks.